everyone, Michelle Seidling here with another episode of Food Experience Unplugged. Today we're talking about body image and what you can do to have a great mindset and really focus on your health. And here to help us do that today is the amazing Lisa Dahl. Lisa, welcome to the podcast. This podcast is available on multiple platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. Please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to be informed as new episodes become available. If you enjoyed today's episode or any of our episodes, please rate and review the podcast on your favorite platform. As always, check out our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com for some resources as you begin your health journey.
Thank you so much for having me and sharing this such an important topic. We just came off of National Eating Disorder Week, and it's just perfect timing. I don't know when this is being broadcasted, so it's a good time to talk about it anytime.
Absolutely. Definitely an important topic. But to get started here, will you take a moment to introduce yourself and what brought you to this point? Why body image? Why that focus?
So I am an intuitive eating and body image health coach. I work with women to help them learn how to listen, trust, and respect their bodies so that they can be happy, healthy, and confident at any time. So I help women undiet their lives. And the question of, why body image? How did I get here? It's personal and professional. So the first time that I had the I don't like my body experience started when I was in elementary school. I was in gym class and I was told that I needed to go to special gym because I couldn't walk on the balance beam. It set me up for being different than everybody else, being picked last for every team sport, and never thinking that my body was enough to be able to participate in athletics and sports and being comfortable in my body because I was told that there was something wrong with my body. The next experience was when I was in high school, and I remember skipping breakfast and going into school. We had been told the day before that we were going to be weighed and measured, and standing with a sea of girls and everybody with smaller bodies than mine, thinking, did my skip breakfast going to give me a better number on the scale, because I felt so physically uncomfortable. And that set me up for dieting from the time that I was probably 12 or 13 years old until a couple of years ago, when I shifted careers from catering into health and wellness. My goal was, I'm going to be the best weight loss coach out there. I have so much experience. I can do it, quote unquote, better than anybody else. This is my passion. I know so much about nutrition. I know so much about food. I'm a former caterer. This is my sweet spot. And then through my education, I started to notice some things about my relationship to food and body. And I was getting extraordinarily stressed on the days that I needed to have my clients weigh in on top of my daily stress of getting on a scale. And I came across the book, Health at Every Size. And I plowed through it and kept thinking, how could this be? And I realized that I had my own disordered eating challenges. From there, I discovered the practice of intuitive eating and the body positive community. And it shifted my entire life personally and professionally. And I knew at that point, for me, ethically and morally, I could no longer support women to lose weight, because I now take the perspective that dieting is the pathway to disordered eating and eating disorders. And it's time to change the narrative of our self-worth and our bodies.
I love that. Wow. I just love how you pulled from your experiences and just had that aha moment. Well, we're okay. Enough of this other stuff. I need to focus on who we are and our confidence, essentially.
It absolutely made such a difference in my life. And it's not just flip the switch and all of a sudden, you're healed, I'm going to be an intuitive eater. It's taken a long time, and it's really been such an incredible experience. And now how I perceive other women and support other women and accept other women, and that whole judgmental side of myself, of judging myself and others, has just shifted immensely. And now I get to be able to hold such a beautiful space for the women that I work with. It's really just, I don't even know how to describe it other than it just brings me so much joy to be privileged to work with women and help them dismantle and to break free from the shackles of dieting and diet culture, and to help them understand that they are not alone and that this happened to them, not because of something that they have done.
Okay. So to kind of just make sure we're all on the same page, will you tell us what do we mean by body image? What do you mean by intuitive eating? Can we get some clarity on that?
Absolutely. So when we're talking about body image, we're talking about four components. One is perceptual, how you visualize or see your body. And the second one is affective body image, how you feel about your body. The third one is cognitive body image, how you think about your body. And the fourth one is the behavioral body image, in which is a result of your perceptual, your affective, and cognitive body image. And your behavioral is the way that these thoughts impact your life. So it's not just about the reflection on your mirror, in the mirror of what you're seeing. It is all these different components that affect how you feel and how you see your body, is ultimately that lump word of body image. Intuitive eating is the antithesis of dieting. Dieting has you with strict rules and regulations. You are either on a diet, you're following the rules, or you have broken your diet and now you feel horrible. Intuitive eating is based on principles, which are there's 10 principles, and it is about practicing those principles. And the principles are rejecting the diet mentality, honoring your hunger, making peace with food, challenging the food police, satisfaction. Nobody talks about satisfaction when you're following a diet. You're just following the rules in the program. Feeling your fullness, honoring your emotions with kindness, respecting your body, movement making the difference versus exercise to shrink your body. And the last component is gentle nutrition. And nutrition comes last because often in a dieter's world, as soon as nutrition comes in, everybody's mind goes to calories and macros and the details. What intuitive eating has you doing is getting out of your head and into your body so that you can understand how food makes you feel or why you're using food, giving yourself permission to eat. As dieters, we tamp down our hunger and then we wonder why we're refeeding and binging and label ourselves emotional eaters or a lack of willpower, so that we talk about and dismantle and discuss all of those things that happen to us as dieters, and we start to heal our bodies by being in our bodies. Dieting comes from body, and negative body image is typically the impetus of the diet. It's like which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Typically it is the body image or the disconnect or the hate that starts to breed that long road of dieting.
Mm, okay. Now, do both of those, do they kind of go hand in, I guess, with your chicken and the egg analogy? I mean, which comes first? Do you work on improving your body image, or do you do intuitive eating, or a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. It's not a black and white, but we're talking about, understanding where your thoughts are coming from. So when we're talking about dismantling diet culture, we're also talking about where did those thoughts come from? How do we unpack that baggage of where you ended up today? Where did your body story start? Is really one of the most important questions. We didn't wake up at 30, 40, or 50 not liking our bodies. What shifted? Was it a parent? Was it a doctor? Was it social media? Was it a commercial, TV? I always like to say, like, I grew up with the Miss America pageant, Snackwells, and Weight Watchers. That is what defined my body, part of what defined my body story. I had a mom who was 5'10". My father is 6 foot. My brother is 6'2". I'm 5'5". My line used to be, if I could just grow another couple of inches, I could be tall and like them. No matter what I do, I'm not going to be able to change the height of my body. I cannot change the size of my feet. And we really can't permanently change the size of our bodies because it's not calories in and calories out. So it's when we're talking about what comes first, body image or intuitive eating, it all kind of intersects. And when I work with my clients, I really work on 5 pillars because all of those things come together. And it's about intuitive eating, mindful eating, the practice of health at every size, non-judgmental self-awareness, which brings you into your body image, as well as self-compassion. And When we talk about self-compassion, I talk about that in terms of comparison to self-esteem. So when people see people in larger bodies, they often say, well, they have no self-esteem. I don't really care if somebody has self-esteem. I worry about their ability to offer themselves self-compassion, because self-esteem has us comparing ourselves to somebody else. It's great when we believe that we're better than someone else. And it's awful if we're below the person who that we are comparing ourselves. So self-esteem is either a great thing or a horrible thing. Self-compassion, your ability to be kind to yourself, your ability to understand that you're not alone, is there all the time. So I bring all of those components into healing somebody's relationship with food and body.
Okay. Wow. So a little bit of both. Now, with body image, you mentioned for you it happened back in elementary school. Is that often the case with those with whom you work? Like, how does that negative body image happen?
It's more often than not, it comes from when you are younger. And it is often from, what were the messages that your parents gave you? Did you have a mother or a father that dieted? Did you have a mother or father who always commented on their body or commented on your body? Did they tell you, no, you can't have that, it's this, it's not good for you, it's bad for you? And you start to develop this good food, bad food. Well, if my mother hates her body and I look just like her, how can I like my body? We lose trust. Like, we're all born trusting ourselves. We are born intuitive eaters. We cry, our mothers or parents or caregivers will pick us up, they'll nurse us, they'll feed us, and then we will unlatch. Then, as a parent or caregiver, I used to call it topping off. We want to make sure that you offer them, one more suck or one more bite or something, because you want to be that good parent to make sure that your baby or your child is nourished. And that's the first signal for our babies to not trust themselves. Then, as they get older, we start in with the food rules. No, you can't have that. No, we can't do this. We only eat healthy food. Then all of a sudden you're sneak eating or you're eating it at somebody else's house. And there's so many different messages that are getting mixed up. And we start to lose that ability to trust ourselves on how much food we can eat and the permission to eat all food, and to learn that, we as parents, we're so protective. We don't want our children to have belly aches. What would it be like if we let our child have a belly ache so that they could know what it feels like when they eat X versus Y? Not that it's bad, and not that you can't have it. When you eat the full bag of M&Ms, you get a belly ache. When you eat a handful of M&Ms, nobody really cares. How do we build that trust back into our babies and our children so that they can start to develop autonomy versus the messages that they're picking up on how we perceive our bodies and our relationship to food, because they're mimicking what they see.
Okay. And it just kind of develops over time. It snowballs, I guess.
It does. I mean, it's modeling. When you see, somebody who you love and who's your primary caregiver, and they have such a challenging, hateful relationship with their body, that's what you grow up knowing. That's your truth. If somebody says, oh, you look just like your mother, and then all of a sudden you're looking at your mother and your mother is, hiding from being in a picture. How does it make you feel when you look just like her? Because she doesn't like her body, you're conditioned then to not like your body. So it's really trying to break down, where did you get those messages? Where is this information coming from? And is it really true? It's just our thoughts. We're just told to think that way, and we can change our thoughts.
Mm, okay. So kind of working on understanding where all of this came from, and then you can start the healing, start the positive body image.
Yeah, yes, I kind of refer to it as, who packed your bags? You've been carrying around all of this heavy luggage for years and years and years, wondering, where does it come from? So it's really about trying to figure out, where did those messages come from? You didn't wake up hating your body. You did wake up one day hating your body. You just weren't born hating your body.
Mhm. Okay. So then kind of on the flip side, then you were talking about, different pillars, different steps. What does it look like for what does it look like to develop a positive body image and kind of move forward with that confidence that we talked about?
It's really recognizing what your thoughts are. When you have a negative thought, you then feel, like you have a circumstance, like you're looking at the reflection in your mirror, which is just a normal circumstance. And then you have this thought, all these thoughts of like, oh, I look awful, I'm short, I'm fat, I'm all of these things. And you notice those feelings and emotions, and then you notice what actions you end up taking, and the result is a negative result. When we say, okay, what other thoughts can we start to create when we look in the mirror? And we're not talking about going from body hate to body love. That's a huge, step. We have to be talking about something that your brain is going to accept. How do we shift those thoughts that just feel a little bit in the right direction? That you can start to say, well, I have a beating heart, and that heart allows me to be able to be present, whether it is your beating heart or the metaphor of a warm, big heart allows you to love, trying to find those things outside of the vessel that you are born in so that you can start to focus on the things that your body does for you and start to build one small step at a time to start to create acceptance and respect of your body. Not everybody's going to get to body love. And it would be wonderful, if you've read the book by Sonia Renee Taylor and she talks about radical self-love, that would be an amazing space to be. How do we get to neutrality or respect? Because when you are neutral or respect your body, you are kinder to your body. When you're kinder to your body, you feel better about your body. How do we take one small step at a time so that you can develop a relationship that you can start to trust yourself and like yourself and respect yourself?
Okay. And that's regardless of all of the messages that continue to bombard us about different diets or what size we should be and so forth.
Right? How do you say, changing your social media? I mean, there's some simplistic things that you can do. When you see the before and after picture of everybody's diet, that keeps you stuck. That has you feeling awful in a bag of guilt and shame. When you change your social media and you start to see bodies that look like your bodies, and you start to read information that you don't have to be thin to be healthy, it allows you to start to think different thoughts. When you continually repeat that cycle of, diet and rules and try this diet and she looks this and she looks that, that keeps you stuck. It doesn't allow you to think outside of the box that there's another alternative other than dieting and diet culture.
Okay. Now on that shift note, changing your image, so to speak, do you have, in addition to your own example, of course, do you have others with whom you've worked who have really made that shift? Can you kind of talk about their success story, if you will?
Oh, absolutely. Just this week, I was talking with a client who has really struggled with her body image, and she's going on vacation in a few weeks. And the start of the conversation, just really struggling. And then she said, I found a bathing suit. I really liked it and it was comfortable and I am excited to wear it.
Mm,
It is, she's like, I just did it. I went out, I went shopping. And when I was comfortable in it, I felt good about being in it. Just in the topic of swimming, I have another client who I've only been working with for a short period of time. And she is originally from Brazil. And there's this beautiful space that she talks about that her family's all there and that she wants to go back and go swimming. And she has a 6-year-old child. And she says, I like to swim, but I don't really know how to swim. And I don't really feel confident. And I don't want to have to get into a bathing suit and blah, 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 blah. And last week she said, I signed up for swimming lessons and I found a bathing suit and I'm going swimming. And I'm going to go back to Brazil and I'm going to swim with my child and I'm going to enjoy this beautiful space that I have always dreamed of swimming in. So it's incredible when you give yourself permission to be who you are. She feels better because she's been swimming. Nothing about her body weight has changed. She feels better because she's more active. She feels better because she gave herself permission to go do something. There's so many wins when you change your perspective of what success looks like. I have a client who has a long history of cycling, of binging, starving, the traditional diet cycle. And her previous thing is, I fell off the quote unquote wagon and months into a spiral. And she said, I failed last week and, we started to talk about it. And I said, was it really failure or was it challenges? And the end of the conversation, she said, it was challenges because I was able to see that it was a challenge and not failure because several days ago, I started to make those other positive shifts that I didn't spend months going down that rabbit hole. Intuitive, it's not the panacea that all of a sudden you're going to start to work with me and you're going to feel amazing in 24 hours. It's a roller coaster. The goal is to get out of the adult roller coaster and get into the baby park. Let's go into that little roller coaster where there's just the mild ups and downs because we all experience them. One of my favorite quotes is that life is messy and magical, and it's filled with disappointment and discovery. When you realize that it can be the and, not but, it helps to shift where you are and how to change the way that you're going to honor those challenges.
I love that. That whole mindset shift is really powerful, and obviously with many people with whom you've worked as well as yourself. Oh my goodness. So what with that shift as they're changing their confidence and so forth, how do you keep that going? Well, many times we say, okay, great, now I have a great body image, and I'm thinking it probably doesn't stay that way in a vacuum.
No, it's and that's a really great question because nobody is broken that they have to be fixed. It's really helping people understand that it's a process and that it takes time. And just as life goes on, things ebb and flow. And there's going to be times where you kind of really feel like you're in your sweet spot. And then other times things are going to come up and you're going to feel really challenged. And it's knowing that you have somebody who's going to be there to support you. It's funny is that I started a program called Body Peace and Food Freedom, and I've run it now several times. And halfway through, they're like, "Well, what do we do when we're done? Like, what's next?" And I wasn't really thinking about that. And what we developed through them was that they really loved the connection. So I meet now once a month with this group, and the topics are really about what's important to them. So we are doing a book club on different books. We watched the documentary called Embrace by Taryn Brumfrit. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but it's all about body image and sharing their everyday experience, what's going well, where are they feeling isolated, and coming together to have a brave, safe space to have these conversations. Because we live in a world where you have this little safe bubble, and then you go outside and you go out to lunch with the girls and everybody's talking about their diet and how awful they look and did you try this and I've lost that and this doesn't fit. Learning how to create the tools to navigate those conversations and knowing that you have a safe place to go back and fill your cup and to keep you in that mindset that makes you feel best.
Mm, I love that. I just love that connection that, okay, yes, I have a positive image now, but then I have an outlet to talk about situations if something comes up, how if my feelings are changing, all
Yeah,
different aspects.
it's community makes such a difference. It's just knowing that you're not alone and that your suffering and your challenges with your body image is not just it's not just you, not to diminish your experience of pain. It's also to know that you're not in pain alone and that everybody suffers and everyone deserves compassion. And when we come together, knowing that it's not isolating makes the difference.
Mm, absolutely. Now, for those whether they're struggling currently with body image or just kind of exploring, where do you start with all of this? What's that process? You kind of alluded
When
to a little bit earlier.
um, it's like you hit rock bottom. Like you start to say, like, I can't do this one more time. There's so much pain. Or you have children and you don't want to pass on your body story. And it's really reaching out and sharing because when you start to share your pain and your struggles, it starts to diminish the shame and the guilt. And it's an open mindset to say, I'm willing to explore something else. I'm not about pulling you over to the other side. I'm not about saying, you're horrible for dieting. I'm helping you explore what's important to you. I'm helping people to explore what it feels like to not weigh themselves every morning and to go down that lane of, shame and judgment at 6 a.m. when you get onto the scale. How do we measure different how do we have different metrics for progress? What is your energy like? What is your mental health like? We're taught that our health is all about movement and nutrition, which is part of it, but it's only about 20% of it. What does your relationships look like? What is your mental health? What is your sleep? What is your financial health? All of those components make up your whole body health. So we start to unpack all of those things, that you are not just about that number on the scale. So we really take a deep dive into what's happening into your whole experience and your relationship to food, through some general assessments. And they're not about judgment. It's about helping us understand your relationship, so that, it's being willing to be curious and let the judgment go. And again, it's not like a flip of a switch. It is about coming together and being willing to create that brave space to unpack those bags that you're carrying with you.
I love that. Just kind of taking a step back and seeing the big picture first, and then deciding where to go forward.
Right. When people talk about, they want to lose weight, they want their confidence, is really what they're looking for. And people become confident when they are nourishing their bodies with food that makes them feel good, when they are partaking in physical activity that makes them feel good, when they have people who they have relationships with. Their confidence grows when they start to understand that their vessels, who they're born into, is not their self worth. There's so many other components that make up who that person is, and what makes them a beautiful person from the inside out, and helping them discover what their authentic beauty is, not just the reflection on the mirror.
Okay. Now on that continuity after, once you kind of regain your your positive body image. Now for you personally, what do you do to keep those things, keep that going, keep that positive outlook and so forth?
It's a great question. I really am mindful of what my social media looks like. I am because I'm so immersed, and because my goal is to be the best coach that I can be, I am constantly learning and reading. So I'm getting all that positive reinforcement that I am in the right space and place. I'm very conscious of diet culture and the negative thoughts that can come into my head, because I'm not immune. I'm no different than anybody else. Um, and it's practice. I know for me that movement is key. And I use the word movement because I used to be very rigid, where I would do X on this day and Y on that day, and there was no negotiation, weighing and measuring my body and doing all of those things that kept me very stuck. And now I remember that on a Saturday or a Sunday, Saturdays and Sundays, I get to be outside going hiking in the woods with my partner, with my dog. That brings me joy. It's not going to shrink my body, and it brings me joy. So I have shifted my thoughts on what movement looks like. It is, that somebody will say, what's the best exercise? The best exercise or movement is the one that you gravitate towards, the one that you enjoy, the one that makes you feel good. I have one client who hates the word, and I mean, like, just viscerally hates the word exercise. And she's in a larger body, and she just wants, her goal is really about being able to, I just absolutely lost the word, agility. She wants to be agile. So for her, starting to just go for a walk, starting to, just to bend, just to move, just to stretch. We don't use the word movement. We don't use the word exercise. I'm going to go do some agility training because it makes her feel like it's light, and it gives her a purpose. It's the word that she connects with. She just wants to be able to move in her body. And that's a big difference than, if I don't go and walk X or X miles, I'm never going to shrink my body. So the word agility is what came to her. And that's the word that we use because it makes her feel good, and it doesn't make her feel judged, and it doesn't have her comparing herself to somebody else. Because it's so easy for somebody to say, oh, I'm going for a run. Well, how far did you run? And then all of a sudden it gets into comparison. And now what you were doing felt great, but all of a sudden now it feels less than. Learning to keep those conversations safe, staying out of the comparison game.
Mm. Or just saying what you did and then having the other person receive it, or you receiving something in more of a non-judgmental way of oh, wow,
Yes.
that's great that you did X, Y, and Z.
Right. Or wow, that makes you really feel good.
Mhm.
How do how we respond, like one of the things that always, stands out in my mind, and we all fall into this trap, is when you haven't seen somebody in a long time and the first thing you say, oh, I'm so, like, you look amazing. Like, have you lost weight? And that automatically, like one of three things has happened. One, they're either extraordinarily stressed and they've lost weight. They could be struggling with some sort of health scare or, illness, or we can be praising their disordered eating or eating disorder.
Mm,
That was the thing that got me trapped for a long time, was that people were always commenting on the size of my body and my willpower and my ability to resist and my ability to restrict. Well, all of a sudden, I'm not that anymore. And so how do we, now it's working on changing somebody's greetings of, wow, like, you look so happy, your eyes are shining, or you look really sad, tell me what's going on. Asking a question versus making a comment on somebody's body, because you have no idea what's going on behind those closed doors. And, I know for me, it was like I was the diet queen. That's what I was known for. I was known for the rigidity. I was known for being able to shrink my body and keep it there for a long time until I couldn't.
mm,
And there's so many people. I mean, that diet cycle is going to come around. The statistics are 95% of us will regain weight and more. That is the science. We can't cheat that. How do we change the narrative?
mm. I love that. Just kind of putting the diets aside and focusing on you and things that you personally need.
Yes. What are you thinking? What do you need? How do you build that self-care toolbox other than, food is our go-to, and it has kept you strong and resilient, and it has kept you safe for a long time until it doesn't work anymore. And sometimes food is the answer. How do we build in or expand that self-care toolkit?
Mm. Okay. Now on that note, are there any tips or words of wisdom per se as people try to start this body image journey and intuitive eating journey?
Um, one of the best couple of things. One is start to dismantle the good food, bad food narrative. You're not good, you're not bad based on what you eat. Food has no moral value. When you notice the judgment, flip it to the best that you can to curiosity and ask yourself, what am I feeling? What do I need? And silence is your friend. Learning to respond versus react.
Okay. Fantastic. I love that. Well, Lisa, how can people get in contact with you?
You can go to my website, which is Lisa Dahl, Dahl, wellness.com. So it's lisadahlwellness.com. I also have a free 5-day mindful eating experience, which you can find on my website as well, which is really about kind of dipping your toes into what it feels like to be off of your diet. No food rules. You don't have to go out and buy anything. It's really just trying to do some simple practices and to let go of the diving rules for a few days. So I highly recommend you check that out. And I'm always happy to chat with somebody if they're just kind of curious about what it's all about and being willing and open to explore. And
Fantastic.
and Facebook and Instagram as well, I have to
Yes.
say. The usual spaces where you're going to find us.
Okay. Well, we will include all of those in the show notes. Lisa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for all that you continue to do to help work with people to really uncover that true self essentially and really magnify your confidence, your body image and everything that you do. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share my message. I really am appreciative.